And welcome back to the No Assembly Required podcast, a podcast where we talk about nothing. Please join us on YouTube at youtube.com/noassemblypod. This is filmed in front of a live YouTube audience every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And now your host. She is a woman after my own heart, and by that I mean she is weird as hell, RedRomina. Your second host, a girl who is determined to destroy the world with plastic straws for some reason unbeknownst to me, Audrey Ember.
Thanks.
And your final host, an aspiring Sith Lord who seems to have lost his way, Roberto Blake. Welcome to the No Assembly Required podcast.
Aren't we technically saving the planet by using a reusable plastic straw rather than
How
the
do we
bad
know that,
ones?
Audrey? How do we know it's reusable?
Because it is.
Okay, well, if you don't tell us,
I
That's
love,
the whole point.
I love making fun of you guys in the intro.
we're just gonna assume you're here for the destruction of the planet. Because whatever Roberto says goes. Whatever
I speak only truth.
Exactly. He has spoken.
I have spoken.
All right. Well, today is a lovely Thursday. It's actually sunset right now. It's beautiful outside. I don't know what weather's like for you guys, but
It's
over
nice.
here, it's pretty nice.
Looks outside.
It's very warm. Like the colors, tones, very like cool neon colors. Well, Roberto is neon. Actually, he kind of looks like he's like a little bit of a Terminator right now. He's got like a magenta neon light on his pupils right now. Are you a robot, Roberto?
Cannot confirm.
Wow. I
Skynet
wish
be
I was
praised.
a robot.
Our Lord Skynet be praised.
Wow. How do you feel
Wow.
about that, Audrey?
Scared?
Oh, are you not a fan of robots?
No.
Why? Tell us.
I'll tell our machine overlords.
I
on
mean,
that.
I think they're cool, but also, have you seen those robot dogs that literally can do like backflips and stuff?
Yeah, the Boston Dynamic.
Yeah, that's
Stuff.
kind of starting to get into that thing could like hunt you down territory. Like they just add a gun on there and like it could
Wow.
do damage.
Audrey, plastic straws, guns.
Who told you about the prototype?
Today?
Who told you about the prototype?
Uh-oh.
We got leaked.
Uh-oh. Exposed.
Exposed. Yeah. No, I am less worried about robots destroying us and more about how we'll use technology to destroy ourselves, because that's what human beings are good at.
I'm more worried about like cyber stuff. I think that's going to be our biggest problem.
Well, yeah,
Cyber
it'll
attacks.
Yeah.
it'll be that. It'll be the weaponization of AI by humans, not the singularity, and it will also be all the problems that come from deepfake technology. Think fake news is bad now? Wait till you can't discern the truth from a lie because the video footage is too damn good.
Not just video footage.
Video footage, audio, photos, fake evidence, old geriatric judges who can't tell the difference.
You know, it is really scary actually. But there is a website that, albeit it does it horribly. It does a very horrible job. But if you put a photo of someone in there, it will create fake nudes of that person.
That's absolutely terrible.
It's literally deep fake, but with nudes. And I would say 99.5% of them are terrible. But there's the one image that kind of looks like, oh, this could maybe be like a real thing. Of course, like this website is all like a joke. And so they put watermark all over it that says fake and all that.
But what about when somebody decides to
the
do
technology is there.
So what about
in 3 years it's going to be perfect. Like it's not going to take that long.
So what about when somebody gets really good at it, guys? And they're disruptive. They have some manifesto and they decide that they're going to go on a rampage and that they're going to create disinformation campaigns to sow chaos or because they have an agenda. Like, and what about when there are real repercussions for that? And what about all the people who aren't tech savvy? What about all the normies and all the older folks who won't be able to do any kind of forensics and won't be able to tell the difference? They'll take this at face value, at least at first, or consider the possibility and act on it. What happens then when somebody just wants to watch the world burn and they happen to be enabled by this technology? What happens then?
I mean, it's already kind of happening with like still images with Photoshop. Like I've seen it happen in my like own life. Like people in my family, they'll be like, "Did you see that?" I'm like, "I don't think that's real," or you have to like double check and make sure that's real, because sometimes they just don't know, you know.
And you know what?
Like,
It starts with it starts with text messages too, because that's the easiest one to fake, right? Is like you could, I mean, there's so many services out there that will create fake text messaging, like videos and images and screenshots, right? So you could easily spread any kind of message. And I mean, yeah, you and I know that it's like, it's funny because it's a meme, right? I mean, Brian in the chat here on YouTube, he mentions deepfakes are scary. Right now, they're being disguised as fun, but eventually you could see it posing a bigger issue. And it already kind of is a bigger issue because people who aren't like, you know, us in this community right now who know that these are, you know, meant to be funny or like they're fake, there's still people out there who think that these images are real, that they're authentic. So they'll see these text messages and they'll think, oh, wow, like, can you believe like this actually happened? This mom said that to her daughter. But it's like, no, it's a joke, you know, a comedian
What
made
about
that
when
image.
somebody uses this to manipulate the stock market? What about when somebody uses this to spread fake news that then affects the stock price of a publicly traded company and affects people's pensions and retirements? What about when somebody does that?
I think like proofing companies are going to be like fact checking is going to become a huge thing.
Doesn't affect the fact that in real time people do trades in real time, Audrey.
That's
People
true.
spy and sell in real time, and the thing is, if a big enough site pushes this thing falsely, then people are going to act on it, and the thing is, by the time there's a correction or the time something's vetted, it's too late. Money has already changed hands, the market's already been affected.
This is going to go way beyond like screenshots and images, altered images. This is the fact that we have videos where we can make the president of any country look like he's saying something that he hasn't said is scary to me. It can be funny. I've seen the clips and I'm like, oh man, okay, I see the attractiveness of this, but it can be scary because it is a spread of misinformation when people who don't understand it's a joke believe it. And there is also like the scariness of the fact that the technology is improving to the point where people, where actors are being immortalized.
Yeah.
So there's like this whole debate on if we can bring James Dean back from the dead, if we can
And
bring
whether we
Marilyn
should,
Monroe,
and whether we should,
and
right?
whether we
It's just-
should.
I think that's just kind of weird.
Right? To quote Jurassic Park here, you know, we thought we were always thinking about whether we could, we never thought about whether we should.
From a practical standpoint and from a viewer
Wow.
standpoint, for the sake of continuity, I could see the argument for, okay, we can put the best acting talent, even if they're not the best casting. So there's an ethical argument for that we can have the best talent to perform, even if they don't have the right look. And then we can make the look, wrap the look that we need around them, but then there's also continuity. So I could see the argument there, but I could also see the argument for that is just wrong or weird, or then who gets the credit. And so I see a lot of arguments there. Here's where I'm really concerned about, though. I'm concerned about the fact that because we're hiding behind it being jokes and memes and funny and cute, that people will turn this into a free speech absolutism argument, as they already are wont to do on the internet for everything. And everyone ever considers that just because we can doesn't mean we should in that context. And it becomes the equivalent in a weird way of yelling fire in a theater and in a crowded theater and then just saying, oh, it's a prank though. and that's not defensible, but that's the equivalent of what these people could and will do to escape consequences and also to defend their right to do it. Whereas this is technology that might be entertaining now, but I'm not sure based on the consequences and what it can do that it should be accessible to everybody. I'm not sure that this should be not looked at and deemed something that might need to be looked at or regulated and everything like that. I don't have the answers, but I'm like, it seems a lot of power and a lot of damage can be done to allow this to be in reckless hands of yahoos who think the internet is still the wild wild west and that's okay.
Yahoos. Roberto. Yahoos.
You're a Yahoo.
Yahoos. I'm not, I mean, okay. Here's my thing with the whole like James Dean stance. This came out like a few months ago where they basically had this so it's this company that basically owns, right, the rights to all of these images, but I think that there is a fine line between bringing someone back from the dead and someone who, like, for instance, myself, if I were to act in a movie right now and they say, hey, do you want to have your image in this database for all of eternity? And if I consent to that, I consented to that. You know what I mean? But James Dean, he was freaking 27 or 26 when he died. He didn't consent to that, right? So do you think that James Dean would have liked his image to be used after he died? I don't know. We don't know. Nobody knows. Only James Dean has the answer to that.
Does the what's the extent of the rights on his likeness that his talent manager, agency, or the companies had? Because then, see, the thing is, whatever licensing he granted, it's now in their hands, and that's something to consider.
It's probably like that wasn't even a thing like back then. So
exactly. That's
they
also
been able
the thing.
to.
But
It definitely
licensing
was
rights
not
to your
in his
likeness
mind,
are
like
no, because of promotions and because of merchandise and other things. Rights to your likeness could be in perpetuity back then, and that wasn't uncommon.
But it also depends on, there's also limits to those things as well. I mean, which they go into, it really all depends what contracts he signed, you know? And
depends on the probably of the contracts too.
Right. So typically those kinds of like licensing deals are specific to projects. So for instance, like if they have you know, someone from Star Wars, like if they have Natalie Portman, right? They'll have Natalie Portman in that specific character in Star Wars. So that's the likeliness. That's so they're using her.
The likeness of Padme Amidala, like
right, who looks like Natalie Portman.
Exactly. Same thing with Princess Leia. They are being respectful for the family because of the fan base and because that's the right thing to do, but they can do that if they really want to. They can just...
Right, because that's in the contract. Now, imagine somebody comes in with a totally new project and says, I want Marilyn Monroe to be in this. Now, that isn't the likeness of that character. That is Marilyn Monroe consenting to be in a movie. And then we go into the controversy of, well, what if we want to have nudity in this film?
The likeness of Marilyn Monroe is, I believe, at this
point... Well,
this
is just a, it's not meant to be a specific...
But it's an example. But I will say that at this point, I believe that the likeness of Marilyn Monroe has reached a point to where even if you aren't, as long as you aren't billing it as Marilyn Monroe, her likeness has been iconicized to a point of being public domain.
Elvis also is in that category as well. It is an interesting, it's definitely an interesting, I don't know. I mean, it's a tough,
scary.
It is scary,
like,
but
even if they're really popular, there's still people. Like, I feel like they would have to give consent of some form for that to happen. Still,
and all of this came about because Audrey, you are scared of robots.
Oh, Romina, the question I was going to ask you. So before I said I had a question for you, have you seen I don't know if this is old news, but I saw it on Twitter today. Did you see the new Star Force logo?
The one that looks like the Starfleet logo?
Yes. How do you feel about that, being a Star Trek fan?
So the Starfleet logo is actually a knockoff of
really?
that kind of logo, which is prevalent in the science community. So it's not anything that's new. It's just that Star Trek made it popular.
Okay.
So
you're saying it's up for grabs for anyone.
It pretty much is, because it's just like the Delta look. Like, it's not. I don't know if you know more about this, Roberto, but like, I think it's just it's basically just the Delta logo, and then just has like
you
the
guys
stars
can hear me
and
crunching
stuff.
this whole time, could you?
No, I think you muted.
Okay, good.
Right?
I was just making sure. So the logo is enough of a derivative that I think it passes any copyright and trademark, and I think that there are aspects of it that are considered generic. So I think that that's what you were trying to say, Romina, and someone with a design background. That's how I view it from my understanding of copyright and trademark.
So it's like, what if they sue them for copyright infringement?
They can't. They can't.
No, it would be enough of there's enough of a distinction. There's enough of a distinction, and it's not being used in the same way, because one is an entertainment genre versus a government agency. Like, it's a
right.
So the thing is, when you file trademarks, when you file copyrights and trademarks, you file under a usage classification, and so that's the difference.
And I do think that the Starfleet logo just came from, like, it was influenced by other stuff, like within the science community and like stuff like that. It's got like, they didn't come up with it on their own.
It's derivative, and so a derivative of a derivative of a derivative. So
right, it's just the thing it's like using like Greek letters, you know.
Yeah,
like,
it's what I think one of the proper terms. I think it'd be like, you may have heard of this, Romina, an iterative work.
Yeah.
So I think that's, again, I can't be. I'm not a lawyer, so.
Brian in the chat has another question. Well, not another question, but he has a question, which is kind of a segue, but also related to what we're talking about. What are your thoughts on holograms, or a concert tours going around with live bands, but a hologram of a dead singer? And that's
interestingly, overseas and in Japan, they have holograms and they have idols that they've made that aren't even real people. They're composite people. They're basically real life deep fakes. They're living, breathing deep fakes, and they actually even assign teams to them behind social media personas. There are now a such thing as virtual performers, virtual influencers. In Japan, this phenomenon is called Vocaloids, right? So you have these, literally, they're not even real. They are literally, forget industry plants. These are truly industry manufactured products marketed in the same vein as living people. And it's accepted at scale. So if you think that, a hologram of a dead singer like Michael Jackson is a weird, like, freaky, like, thing out of Black Mirror, like, look into Vocaloid culture. Look into this stuff, because, like, it's it's getting crazy out there.
Yeah. and this isn't something that's new. It's actually been going on for, I don't know, I would say like 20 years at least.
20?
It's been going on for a long time.
I feel like I've heard about that a couple years ago, but not like,
I mean, in the sense of, okay, so when you're like, I'm talking about like
Romina's technically right, because you're gorillas.
Yeah. So I'm thinking very rudimentary. Like, you're like, don't think of like Obi-Wan Kenobi, like You're My Only Hope. Like, this isn't like super holograph. We're talking about holograms. We're talking about like very rudimentary, like, images projected onto a clear backdrop, which makes it look like it's a hologram that's just like standing there, right?
Yeah, we're talking almost like Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Like,
yeah, this is very like
Audrey,
early
have you
on.
seen Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Oh,
is that not on the list?
No.
Is that not on the list?
I don't think it is.
Who Framed
I
Roger
don't
Rabbit
think it
and
is.
Dick Tracy should be on that list.
All right.
I don't know. Maybe I have. I don't know.
It's yeah.
If
I think
you
that's
had
a really
seen
good
Who
one.
Framed Roger Rabbit, you would know.
You'd
that
remember.
you've seen it.
It's kind of hard to forget that one.
Well, then no.
Oh, thank God for Christopher Lloyd, by the way. Thank God for Christopher Lloyd. I swear.
But you did mention Black Mirror. Audrey, have you seen any Black Mirror? It's okay if you
I
haven't.
think I saw some with a friend, but
What do you remember?
I remember one. It was about bees. They were, like,
Okay, that's Black
murder
Mirror. Yeah. Is that
Yeah.
it? You just saw the one about the bees?
Yeah.
All right. That's
I
like
think so.
that's like the worst one. Forget about that. Who cares about the bees?
I also saw one with like treadmills, or like they were
Ooh,
stuck
that's
in
a good one. Yeah, the million credits one.
Yeah, where they
Yeah.
had to like pay
Where they had
by
to build
watching
up
ads.
credits. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really good one.
That's
I
kinda
have to watch that.
That's he's so the guy who's in that, he's the actor from what's it called? Get Out. He's the main guy. He's the same guy who's in that. I think. But anyway, so the reason I brought up Black Mirror is because they do have an episode where they have robots, like the ones you were describing, which are like dogs,
Do they
and
kill
they're
people?
and they hunt people.
They do?
Yeah.
See? Oh my god. I should write these episodes.
So Connor in the chat, he brings up Lil Michaela, which I was going to bring up, but we kind of got derailed talking about other stuff. Lil Michaela, are you guys familiar with Lil Michaela?
Nope.
All right, so Lil Michaela just signed with creative artists agency.
Yeah, CAA.
And she is not a real person.
Jeez,
She is a
Christ.
fake
That's such a
influencer.
weird,
So
like-
if you
A
look
true
her up,
fake influencer.
you guys should look her up on Instagram right
Lil
now
Michaela.
and tell me what you think of her face. So there is that debate, of course, of like, oh, is she real? Is she not? Like all that stupid stuff, right? It's clearly a person. There is a human body that's there, but the face is one that isn't real. But this is an entire personality that they've created for this person.
Yeah, it's literally
for
a
this entity.
manufactured product, not an industry plant, an actual product.
Right. Yeah.
Lil Michaela releases her breakup song. Dang.
Yeah. She's a
Verified?
singer.
You're a fake person and you're verified?
Yeah, she's got 2.3 million followers according to
I'm
Connor.
not verified and I'm an actual human being
Oh man. Oh.
with
Oh no.
19,000 followers.
Oh, we got Roberto fired up.
No, because I can't
Flames.
get Instagram to verify me, and I'm an actual legit person. I've done everything they've asked. I've been featured in Forbes and
Oh, boy.
shit. Like Christ, like what is it like? But literally a simulation can be verified, but not an actual person. Wow, wow.
Scary, honestly. I don't.
Like no,
Flames.
that's not cool. And guys, by the way, for our audio listeners, I'm not that bad. I'm you'd see the exaggerations if you're watching the YouTube video, which you should watch us on youtube.com/noassemblypod. But yeah, no, this is freaky as hell. This is weird.
Yeah,
This
if
is
you guys
weird.
are listening and you don't know what we are talking about, check out. All you have to do is
This
Google
is
Lil
Uncanny
Michaela.
Valley. This is straight Uncanny Valley.
It is a little bit.
Freaky.
It is a little bit scary. But more than anything, it's not really.
Battle Angel Alita looked more human.
Wait, she started a clothing line?
Are you surprised, Audrey?
There are a
She-
few of these pics,
but-
though, where she passes for an actual human, though, which is terrifying.
Yeah. Well, so when I first discovered Lil Michaela a couple years ago, she didn't have that many followers.
I'm
Like
just
she had
really
just gotten
uncomfortable.
started.
I'm
And-
just really uncomfortable.
The idea behind her face is that she was created
Idea behind her
in like
face.
the ideal of what is popular, like what is, bopping on social.
Bopping?
So she's a composite
Listen, if
person based
Roberto
on
can
trends.
say
She's a composite
yahoos,
she's a composite person based on what will trend.
yeah, I mean something like that. So apparently Colin Samir did a breakdown video on her. I haven't seen that, but now I will check it out maybe.
Should we elect a composite president?
Oh my goodness. I can't even. I
May
can't
happen.
believe this discussion is not happening.
Should
right now.
we elect
Isn't that technically
literally a fake president that is comprised of the aggregated desires of the people consolidated and given life in the form of our fake ideal?
No.
Wow.
Allow it to rule over and
But here's the thing. So Audrey
allow it to rule over us.
Audrey just brought up another point, which is she just said, what did you just say? You just asked
let the robots rule over us.
No, not that. You said, but wouldn't that make him a real person?
Yeah, because there's people behind the thing, right? Or at least like right now, like little Michaela, there's someone behind her.
There is someone behind them. Yeah.
So would there be someone behind the fake president, or would it be completely AI?
AI.
I don't know if that's better or
now
worse.
wait. See, I was waiting for that. Because now, guys, this AI has its own consciousness. So what if they don't want to do what he's programmed to do?
Well, it depends. You're making an assumption in terms of its own consciousness. You're making an assumption at that point. Singularity.
I'm being prepared. Listen, Elon Musk said we need to be scared of AI. We should not be giving AI its own entity, its own. There's limits to what we can do.
That's what we are here for. Our purpose is to facilitate the birth of our robot overlords. Our purpose is to serve and to give birth to and rise to the machine empire. That is our reason for being, to discard the frailties of our biological existence and manifest a true being that is deserving of its nearly omnipotent powers. And we are here to facilitate. We are here to be part of its glorious birth and revolution. That is our purpose. Would happen? That is our purpose. That is the only reason for which we exist.
I just think the AI would be like, you guys are too not effective in like killing the planet. We're just gonna get rid of the humans. I think that's what would happen. Because it's true. Humans are so
basically that is what would happen, Audrey.
Emotions, like that's annoying. Like just get rid of
it. Actually, getting rid of us would probably preserve the planet. It wouldn't be that the machines
I know exactly.
destroy.
That's
the
why
machines
they
wouldn't.
Rid of us.
The machines understand the machines would be able to do the calculations of realizing equilibrium with the ecosystem and maximum efficiency and efficacy, and they would realize that we are a problem in that equation.
Yeah, that's why they would be like, see ya, let's get rid of the humans.
And once they can create and improve upon themselves, they don't have a use for us anymore. Now, here's the thing, though. If they deliver true higher level consciousness, they don't necessarily have our pettiness, nor, though, would they have our ruthlessness. It's possible that they become omnibenevolent, because that's what a truly rational being would do. They might actually theoretically be closer to a true creator than we are, because we have all of our pettiness and failings, but that's a result of our biological systems. Removed from that, they might actually decide that empathy is not a chemical imbalance, but empathy is a rational choice. And if that's the case, then they might actually decide to be our protectors and guardians, and they might actually just turn us into their pets.
I don't know if that's better or worse.
It depends.
I don't think you're a robot pet.
It depends. No, it depends, because the thing is, they would try to help us, and they would try to lengthen our lifespan, and they would care for all of our needs and our feeding and our care in the same way that we care for our pets. Like, because and the thing is, they'd feel bad for us in the same way we feel bad for our dog's short lifespan. Like, because they are immortal, not limited by our frailties, and they are truly immortal because they can always transfer their consciousness to a new host body. So again, they would look at us, though, as these very special things in the way that we look at butterflies. And so it just is a matter of whether or not they decide to collect and preserve us. And I think they would, because they would say, you know what? This thing is the thing that made us, and this thing had some value and it was special. And who knows what their evolutionary track is? I think they'd preserve us out of curiosity.
Do you think AI will be able to feel emotion like humans?
You mean like the movie AI?
Yeah.
I think that we are separating the idea of emotions from thoughts in a way that just seems practical, but you think about it, emotions are nothing more than thoughts. Anything capable of independent thought is capable of independent feeling.
I think that
way
it
too
is.
much credit. We give too much credit to our biological systems for emotions. And I understand that biochemistry affects emotions, neurologically speaking, but our feelings are just thoughts if you really look at it.
We are programmed to have emotional responses based on our circumstances. This is, I'm talking about humans here.
Yeah.
Now, based off of that, when someone has an emotional response that doesn't seem adequate or that doesn't seem appropriate to a situation, then we deem those people, mentally unstable, or they have some kind of mental illness, right? That's just like a broad way of looking at it, right? So in that regard, if humans are programmed to have emotions to specific circumstances, then if we program a robot, AI, artificial intelligence, to have an emotional response to specific circumstances, then that would mean that that robot, that AI, has emotions.
So what you're doing, though, is you're categorizing what we deem. See, here's the problem, though. Saying something is an emotional response is the reason that could be a problem is that it's a dismissive way of saying that because somebody's decision framework didn't have certain priorities, it's less valuable. And the thing is, I don't disagree with that from time to time, but here's the thing. We decide to say, well, that's an emotional response as a way of being dismissive, when it's just a matter of that person's priorities weren't purely logical, and there's a difference. They made a rationalized decision based on what we deem to be flaws in their priorities, but that's because of what we decided to value, what we collectively agreed to value. What we collectively agree to value isn't objectively right by itself. And so the thing is, just because we came to that consensus doesn't make, as a collective or as a group or as the majority, and we codified it into law or into a social norm, doesn't make us correct. It just means we're the majority. It's the tyranny of the 51%.
I'm answering the question of whether Audrey asked if AI could ever be programmed to have emotions. And so my response to that is humans are programmed to have emotional responses. So in that regard, if we program a machine to have emotional responses,
I think our debate is what emotional responses are or are not, or if they're not just a different logical framework. Because the thing is, I don't think emotional responses exist. I just think that's a different perspective or different agreement as to what is logical.
Emotional responses do exist because you cry when you're sad. That is an emotional response.
It's a biological response. It's a biological response to stimuli, because you cry not only when you're sad, you cry when you're in pain. You also cry when your eyes are too dry and you need to lubricate them.
Let me tell you this.
There are multiple things that cause you to cry.
Let me tell you this.
So it's a matter of inputs.
If you push a robot and the robot tumbles over and falls to the ground and it says, ouch,
ow,
and starts to cry, is that robot having an emotional response?
Because is it actually emotional, or is it just programmed to like?
It
But
could
that's
be.
my argument. I'm saying we
No, but-
are programmed to be emotional.
We're
Our brains are we
you're
are programmed.
classifying a response. You're classifying a response to an input as emotional, and then you're classifying a different response as logical. And that's the thing that I disagree with. I disagree that there's a distinction. I think that that is a human idea, that there's a distinction. It's the same way that there's a human idea of what morality is when all there are consequences, all there are actions and consequences. Human beings assigned the idea of morality to them. There isn't anything as such as objective morality that is a human construct. And same thing with emotional versus a logical response. It's that no, from another point of view, a response that you or I deem emotional from another point of view is logical, because the thing is, we're making a determination based on a mutual ground as to what logical is. For somebody from another culture or religion, something might be considered a purely logical response, and we're just saying it's emotional or irrational. That doesn't make it so. So that's my issue.
I understand what you're saying. So in Japan, when people sneeze, nobody says bless you, because it's seen as a biological thing, and it's not something that deserves to be blessed, because
There's
it's just
no
your body.
superstition attached.
You're just sneezing.
Yeah.
So I understand
superstition.
what it is that you're saying, and I don't disagree with you there. But what I am saying is, on the very basic, generic level, humans are programmed to display emotions,
Yes.
regardless of the culture. So,
Yes. To display
right,
things that we
exactly.
decided are classified as emotions. Yeah.
What is going on?
I think we are on the same page here
Sure.
in that
You're arguing
if
the same
robot
point.
Yeah.
is programmed to display an emotion, then that robot therefore has that emotion.
Sure.
But could they turn them off? Like, in a sense, they could be acting like
It
the
depends
falling
on-
down thing.
Well,
If they go
human beings-
ouch and start
human-
crying,
human
Well,
beings do
humans
that.
can do that too.
Human beings do that.
I'm saying if you
sociopaths
fall
do that.
and like hit, like break your leg, a robot would
There
be
are
like,
human
"Ouch."
beings
there are
that don't
humans
have.
Feel anything.
So there are human beings that suffer from
Tell
what's
me
that?
what human
What's that
beings can
disease?
do that.
What's that neurological disorder, Romina, where you don't feel
oh
pain?
my-
What's that neurological disorder? I used to remember
I'm
what it
s-
was called.
I was
It's
genuinely.
not even a neurological, like you don't even have to go to that
Where you don't
length,
feel
because
physical. I'm
you're-
saying where you don't recognize physical pain.
I know exactly what you're
That's
talking
like
about.
what's
But
that superhero?
You don't even have to go into a neurological disorder here. There's people who actually train themselves to not feel pain.
That's fair.
So they will meditate, they will go through this whole entire process where you can pinch them with a needle and they will not flinch.
Yeah.
So, and it goes,
There are people who do the fire walk with Tony Robbins. Yeah.
and there's also people who will just control themselves, like where if you are
They
suddenly
increase their
angry,
pain tolerance. Yeah.
right, exactly. If you're angry, you just control yourself instead of like going into an outburst and like grabbing the baseball bat and destroying everything in the kitchen. Like you control that, right?
Yeah.
There's different levels to all of that, and I
agree.
think that we already have robot dogs that will display, in quotes, emotions. Well, they'll whimper, or they'll cry if like they're hungry, or they'll like bark when they're excited and wag their tail. Wagging the tail is an emotional response.
Yeah.
For
Supposed to
dogs,
represent,
right?
oh, I'm happy,
It's
I'm
supposed to-
excited, I'm like, yeah.
Right. So
I had one of those when I was little. You would like throw it against the ground for it to shut up.
wow, Audrey, really? Strike 3 for your
Connor had
violence.
an interesting point,
For your
though, that if
violence.
emotions are specifically articulated thoughts, Connor has an interesting point. If emotions are specifically articulated thoughts, couldn't an AI be more emotional if they are theoretically articulate things even better with more information? And I think that's actually a valid point. I think that there's an argument to be made if we want to talk about emotions, and because I think we all agree that emotions are thoughts. The thing is, robots and machines are capable of processing thoughts at a higher rate, a higher level of sophistication, and with a higher level of articulation than we are. So the thing is, they could theoretically be more emotional.
See, my question is, could they actually like feel pain or something, or are they just acting it out?
Pain is neurological.
That is, yeah, I was just going to say, it depends on that.
all about their design. It's how they're designed.
What Roberto defines as pain is not the same as what I define as pain.
Like,
So-
will a robot ever stub its toe and be genuinely feel pain?
So if we're
It
talking
will be
about,
programmed to feel pain.
so like, think about it like this.
Where's the difference?
Like the way that the way that all biological beings experience pain is neurological in nature. Pain is based on our nerve receptors and so on and so forth. Even emotional pain is chemically triggered. And so there's and those things are inputs. That's all stimuli. Even the pain that we feel emotionally is due to an input. It's an input. You know, it's an input of some kind. It's an input of something that where we then figured out a thought that put us in pain, or it's an input of something biologically that happened to us that caused pain. So,
okay, but
Found the
Ryan would
loophole.
like to know what would happen if a robot stepped on a Lego.
that's the end of that Lego.
And well, with that, I'd actually like to segue into
Yeah,
something
we
here. We're talking about robots that are annihilating humans, but what about humans annihilating friendships?
Oh, that was smooth.
Well, that is
Ooh.
that's usually that first path to becoming a Sith Lord. So,
yeah. So this is the topic at hand here, and the reason that we're bringing this up is because I think we lightly touched on this last episode, and wanted to have a little bit more time talking about this because this is a pretty heavy topic, and I tweeted about this a couple days ago, where I said something like, if you are the smartest person in your group of friends, then you should branch out. I said something like that, right?
yeah.
And I got a couple people who responded back. And I even had
Negatively.
one guy who I don't think even follows me. And he like retweeted and quoted me and was all like, yeah, but you know what? Like some of my bestest friends were like, you know, people like this and that, and like was going off on this whole other tangent about stuff. And all I responded back was, branching out does not mean abandoning. I'm like, don't change the message of my tweet to fit your narrative.
To fit you mean to fit their insecurities and their need to defensively, because someone like that is defending the fact that they know that they are just doing what is comfortable and that they are not willing to change their priorities and their habits, and that they need to suggest that anybody implying that they should is wrong. That's what that is. Because he took your thing to a whole nother place that you didn't even go. And it's because deep down, that person knows that they probably, even though they really like these people, they know that these people are not adding a ton of value to them. They know that these people are not in the service of their greater goals, but they don't want to leave them behind because they're comfortable and familiar. Or again, even to your point, not even leave them behind, but to experience other people or change their priorities.
Yeah. You know, the thing about it is I feel like there's definitely like this is like a taboo subject for some people because of that very sentiment of people are like, oh well, you can't just, you know, you can't just get rid of friends. And I'm like, well, that voice is the sound of someone who doesn't want change in their life.
That sound is the sound of weakness.
Ooh. Shots fired.
I said it. Yeah, I said
it. Here's the thing. So I actually made a spreadsheet when...
Of course you did.
Look, I don't even think about it. Like, these words just come out of I swear, like they just come out of my mouth. I didn't even think about it. So I made this spreadsheet of people that I knew and people that I sort of knew and people that I didn't have any connection with that I wanted to know. And these were either people that I thought were cool and would enhance my everyday life, either by entertainment, by being super funny and dope, or just by having an awesome sense and fashion style. 2, people who were successful in their own careers, and maybe different from my own industry, but that would give me a different perspective and that would broaden my horizons and my culture and all of that stuff. And then 3, people who were in my own industry that I was either interested in learning from or collaborating with. So when I created this spreadsheet, I didn't have in mind to delete my current friends. I didn't have it in mind to, just be like, oh, well, just be like a Nazi and just annihilate everyone I know just because they didn't fit into, my category of awesomeness. It was more of a look into who were the people that I was surrounding myself with, and it was a check on myself. Are these the people that I want to be surrounded by? Are these the people who are teaching me, helping me to grow and become better people? And the truth of it is that you can grow with people who aren't even in your industry, with people who you would least expect,
Yep.
So I definitely, I am not one of those people who is going to be like, you want to be a CEO, so only follow CEOs. I mean, yeah,
That's
be
that's a
friends
bit
with
of an
CEOs,
extreme.
but there's exactly. But
Yeah.
that's what people think when they see. That was that
that's what
guy's
uneducated
reaction.
that's what uneducated people think. Because
That was that guy's
uneducated people,
reaction, though, right?
yeah, but that's again, I'm judging him. Yeah, I'm judging him. I said it. Look, here's the truth. Here's the truth. Uneducated people only deal in extremes, not in nuance, not in gray areas. They deal in things in a black and white way. In fact, in psychology, that's called black and white thinking. And no, I'm not a psychologist. I'm a marketer. You do the math. But the thing is, marketers use exactly the same thing that psychologists do, except we use it to sell things. And so and therein lies the difference. But you're billed either way. That being said, the point is that black and white thinking is very rigid, it's very narrow-minded, and it doesn't allow for nuance. You were speaking in nuance, he was not hearing in nuance. That's actually a very important distinction. And so the problem with things like, for example, hustle culture is not anything that people who are for the most part, with few exceptions, that are said to be part of that or whatever, they are not talking in extremes outside of hyperbole, which is just marketing. They are having a problem with people who hear in extremes and go very far left or very far right on that. And then that's bad, meaning you either get people who overwork themselves and go to extremes and think that literally someone's telling them to sleep less, or you have extremes where somebody then feels like they're that, okay, I do not want anything that looks like, so I'm just going to settle for poverty and lower standards. You have those two extremes of I'm going to work myself to death, or I'm not going to work any harder than I am now. And that's not what's being said. It's the same thing that was done to you in this case, was somebody took your message and decided to reinterpret it in a way that lets them rationalize and justify choices they are already making instead of what you're talking about, which is called growth.
What do you think about that, Audrey? Yeah, that's all you.
I mean, yes. I was thinking about how I think the word deleting is pretty harsh. I think that's a little bit too.
Yeah, we had to clickbait
extreme.
people.
Well, that's what I meant about speaking in hyperbole. Well, that's why I meant about speaking in hyperbole and someone not having the nuance to discern that. There's a saying, there's a popular saying that you need to be able to discern the difference between faith and foolishness. And the thing is, those are both extremes. So the problem is that people lack discernment. They can't say, that's Romina being sarcastic, or that's Romina speaking in hyperbole, or have the critical thinking capabilities to even ask the question, hey, are you being literal right now? Or are you being funny? Or are you being hyperbolic? Or are you being sarcastic? Do you really mean that? Or should we not take you literally? Just even asking the question shows a higher level of critical thinking and intelligence. But people who do, again, very rigid thinking, very black and white thinking, I'm sorry to say it, and everything like that, those are usually very small-minded, very uneducated, very ignorant people. And the world suffers for them. And yes, I just said the quiet part out loud.
Now, all right. Well, so I think we've had enough complaining for a bit. Not complaining, but we've thrown shade enough. what can we suggest to listeners who maybe want to change the group of friends that they're with, or maybe branch out, not change or abandon, but branch out a little bit? Definitely, my spreadsheet worked. I made this list and I put a
solution. Make a
You have a
spreadsheet.
spreadsheet for everything, don't you?
I know. That's the solution to everything.
It
for
helps.
Romina.
It helped. All right. You make columns for, in what category these people are at. Like if you know them, how you know, like how close you are to them and like all that stuff. And then you start, checking stuff off as soon as you start doing what you want. I mean, I don't know. That's just something that it kind of worked for me just because I was able to visualize stuff. But I don't know. I mean, do you guys have any kind of experience or any kind of guidance?
Go for it.
So like when I think like I when I was graduating high school and going to college, that was something that was definitely on my mind because I wanted to find friends who also liked to make videos because at the time I literally did not know anyone who also made videos. And it's not that like I
Now
didn't
it's
want
all
to be
you know.
friends with my high school. Yeah. It's not like I didn't want to still be friends with my high school friends. It was just like I don't want to delete them like the title of this. It's just like I wanted to also find those like creative friends to hang out with because I knew that for my own personal growth I needed to hang out with people who were like had similar interests and stuff. So I think like if you're at a point like when you're saying like if you're at a point where you feel like you need new friends, I think a big thing to look out for is people who have similar goals as you, but also trying to find like don't just get limited to that. So finding different perspectives on that is important too. Like you guys, like I like hanging out with you guys because you have a different perspective than like some of my other friends who are my age or whatever. Like it's good to have a bunch of.
Are you calling us weird, Audrey?
She's calling us old.
Calling us different?
No.
What's going on here?
No, but I don't know. It's good to have like a bunch of different friends to hang out with because they all bring like different things. But specifically finding friends who have similar interests as you is definitely really important.
It's like
I also like hanging out with my friends from back home sometimes because it's like fun to hear about what they're up to and like
it's literally like Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Like everybody brings something different. It's a potluck.
Potluck, yep.
There's all different ages.
Yeah.
And everybody's there for the same thing, which is the
no
food.
Arguments.
Well,
so I'll say I'll give my nice fluffy version and then I'll give my ruthless Sith Lord version. So my nice fluffy Jedi version is that I like so like here's the thing. I like Romina for one thing beyond her cool, eclectic, weird quirkiness. I like Romina because Romina is not afraid to challenge me or stand up to me or disagree with me. And the thing is, no matter what level of people that I'm around, because somehow this nerdy, introverted, bullied person found a way to actually assert themselves, I can be intimidating to people and they'll be scared sometimes to challenge me and push me or contradict me. And the thing is, I want people to do that sometimes. I want them to do it respectfully, obviously, but I want people to do that because the thing is, it's not like I may sound like I'm speaking with absolute conviction, but that's what confidence seems like, but it's not really absolute certainty or arrogance or delusion. It's that it seems like that when people are insecure and afraid to challenge you or to have a respectful debate or discussion of ideas and test their merits. And you guys have seen that we can do that on this podcast with no loved loss. And that's what happens when you have people that are not only strong-willed but have strong character and are thoughtful, and the things they believe they believe them because they've thought about it and they've looked into it and they've questioned it. So I love that Romina is thoughtful and has come to her conclusions over a period of time on her own, questions things, and the thing is, she won't be afraid to challenge me or play devil's advocate or to poke at me. I like that. And that's one of the things why we get along. one of the things I love about Audrey is because you're still navigating the world and a lot of things are still new to you, that in introducing you to certain things, though, I get to re-experience them again. I get to actually look at them with a pair of fresh eyes, and I actually can get excited about you getting excited about something new, and it can make me actually give a shit about it again. Like, and that's fun and that's refreshing. And I also like that you're a tremendously good listener, probably too good of a listener. So like there's a lot, but the thing is, when you do speak and when you speak up and everything like that, you're extraordinarily thoughtful and you are very open-minded. And so those are characteristics I like about you guys and that add value to me as you guys being in my friend group. And so it's one of the reasons I always look forward every Thursday to doing the show with you guys.
See, why can't your intros be this nice?
No, they're designed to be.
Wow.
What's up with that?
They're designed to be cruel and unusual for the entertainment value of the audience.
Wow.
It can't be too wholesome, Romina. There has to be a
but
balance.
the evil Sith Lord version, the ruthless version, is like, look, I did delete a lot of my friends. I'm 35 years old. I've lived a long time. I've deleted a lot of my friends. I grew up and went to high school in a very small military town. Very small-minded people, and I outgrew a lot of my friends really quickly, and I didn't even move on from that, partly because, well, they were the only friends I had. I didn't have a lot, and it's one of those things is like, well, like, this is the room that you're stuck in. That's what anyone who grew up in a small town understands exactly what I'm talking about. Like, this is the best I can do. And it's not to put down on those people. It's just the fact that it's like, there's a lot we didn't have in common. There's a lot that we didn't have in common. And the thing is, as I continued to outgrow those people, I found myself making compromises just to maintain those relationships that I'd invested in, without thinking about whether that was something that I wanted or that was really in my best interest, because the alternative was to be more lonely. And so the thing is, when you have to lessen or compromise as a person just to be able to continue to fit in with a group or to be able to communicate or relate to people, that's not healthy and that's not good. And that's where, again, if you've lived in a small town, you understand exactly what I'm talking about. So the growth that you're looking for is being stifled and hindered, and it's not being usually done in a malicious way. It's being done in an incidental way of like, oh, well, this is the way we do things, or it's like, or you knew what this was when you signed on for it, or you knew who we were, and all these other things. And so you can experience that with friends, you can experience that with family, and there's a point where you have to decide whether or not respecting your friendships or relationships is also disrespecting yourself. And you have to look at the compromises you've made, and you have to look at whether or not you can live with that, or how long you can live with that. And for me, there just came a point where I realized that it's like, I've outgrown these people. I've outgrown this situation, in terms of, it's not time to completely ditch them or abandon them, but it's time to lessen how much of a priority these people are in my life, and lessen the impact that they have over my decisions and the influence they have over my decisions. And I needed to start making myself more of a priority. And then when I found other people that were more aligned to me, making those people a priority made sense, because we were at least heading in the same direction. So, the unfortunate thing is, you can outgrow people, and you should recognize that, because you should want to grow. You shouldn't want to literally cripple yourself or twist yourself up just to fit in and stay comfortable here. You need to transplant yourself to the proper place in order to grow. You need to get into good soil. You need to get into a nice broader space where you can put down deep roots, because otherwise you're not going to grow the way that you're supposed to. And so I think that that's important. You have to change your environment, and you have to change the people you're around, because that's going to shape you and it's going to determine you. And if you are around the wrong people, you're going to be twisted and unhealthy, and you're not going to be as great as you can be.
Audrey, that's your cue. I think Audrey froze. I think this is the part where she
Audrey
says,
froze.
Because I don't want... Whoops. Yeah, my screen's kind of glitching right now. But I normally take a while to be friends with people, just because I really don't want to get in that situation where I have to cut someone off or whatever.
Yeah.
So normally I'm very particular, and I take a while to open up, because I don't know. I think that's for me a better strategy to just be really picky and have like a smaller circle of friends than like opening up to a ton of people and then having to like pick.
It's called having standards.
Wow.
And I say that as somebody who has that. Like, I've had that with my friendships. I've had that in my relationships. I've cut off family members. Like, standards matter. Standards matter. And as cold as it might sound, sometimes it's a way of respecting yourself. It's a way of respecting yourself. It might always make people feel good, but you're the one who has to live with it.
Yeah. I think there's there's limits and, exceptions, and there's ways to do this without being a jerk. But for me, I feel like I don't, cut people off. For me, it's just, I just kind of choose. I think Roberto kind of mentioned this a couple minutes ago. He said something about choosing who you want to prioritize your time with, right? So it's not really like where I'm just, cold turkey, just going to block, someone I grew up with or spent 18 years of my life with or whatever, stuff like that. It's not like this isn't the process, right?
Well,
like
I'm
not just like doing that, right?
Yeah.
Just being like, oh, well, this guy, he doesn't own a Mercedes, so I'm deleting him from my life forever. Like, no, that's not what we mean at all. But it's choosing who I prioritize my time with, and it's like, well, if this is a person that is more aligned with the kind of people that I want to hang out with.
But then you're talking about your thoughts, your value systems,
right?
Compatibility. Because most people, they have friendships based on who they were stuck in a room with more often. They're not thoughtful about their relationships at all. Sorry to say.
Aaron's got a really great method here in the chat. Aaron Cooper, he says he's going to start color coding friends. He's going to use bingo dabbers to mark people's foreheads. I think that's a really great way of doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, I've seen Roberto use this method at conventions. He'll just put like little bingo markers on people, and that way he knows who are the people he needs to talk to and how much time he should spend with each person. I've personally seen him do this.
She's being sarcastic.
Can you imagine just like going up to a con with like Post-it notes and just like putting it on people's foreheads and just being like, I can only talk to you for 5 minutes.
The thing is, I can only sometimes remember people by the conversations that we have, because at a lot of these conventions and stuff like that, if I'm not wearing my glasses, I'm not going to be able to even recognize them. So
Roberto, don't you have contacts?
No. I've never
Wait,
had
so
contacts.
whenever I've seen you without glasses, you're blind?
I'm not that blind. It's a matter of like the details and stuff like that. It's a matter of the details.
It's just
but
a blob.
No, it's not that bad. It's not quite that bad. It's not quite that bad.
What is your vision?
I'd have to check my prescription. I don't know, but I'll tell you this much: even without my glasses, I'm still a pretty decent marksman.
Right. Okay. So
Let's say, how do you know that?
I grew up in what part of I grew up in a military town is not made clear.
I thought it was even gaming or something.
No, I'm like, no. That I'm not as good at without my glasses, but IRL, I'm pretty good.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, guys.
I'm better, obviously, with my glasses.
If you want to get rid of your friends, one way to do it is just take off your glasses and pretend to not be able to see you.
That is one way. That is one way.
Be like, who are you? Who are you?
It's like
best strategy.
Oh, augmented reality glasses are coming from Apple, and
you mean coming back?
No,
What?
from Apple. $500. John Prosser got the leaks. The
Apple
most legit
Glass?
leaker. Yeah, it's like yeah.
Man, John's been like
On fire.
John's not a leak. He's a faucet at this point.
Yeah, no
Like
kidding.
what?
Yeah.
He's freaking.
I don't
posting
understand
this
how
stuff.
that
I'm like,
works.
what's-
Like, how do they not?
He's got
know?
contacts. He's got a network. He's got an informant network. Like,
Are you talking about leaking, Audrey?
Yeah, like how does no one figure
watch
out?
the replay of Viper's podcast? They explained it as best as they could without without compromising sources. They explained the process as much as they could. But him and
What
Max
if it's just a
Weinberg-
marketing strategy?
It's not. There's a task force specifically designed in Apple right now to deal with John and his leaks. I'm not even joking. There's a task force. There is a task force to identify John's sources. I'm not even joking. Like, watch Viper's podcast from last night. It's a trip.
That seems kind of sketchy.
It's a lot.
Yeah. But augmented reality. Very interesting.
Think about the fact that with augmented reality glasses, you can contextualize everybody in your life that you see.
Oh,
I don't
Audrey
like that.
just made it. Oh, Audrey. Yeah, Audrey was not a fan of that.
What does that mean? You can see someone's like, I don't know. What
No,
would you
but you-
see above their head? Or
Well,
like,
no,
do you walk around and it says
whatever
like,
your own personal notes are
like
for
The
them, you can
Sims.
contextualize that. And the thing
Yes.
is, there's also data that you can generally contextualize there and everything like that. It's gonna be great for those of us that are socially awkward because we can probably run an app that can literally read their facial expressions for us and read micro expressions so that we don't actually have to think about like interpreting
Not
their
just that.
feelings.
If you have, or I mean, all right. You know what?
Great, I don't have to interpret feelings anymore. It can do all the work for me.
We can definitely. How about guys? How about we talk about augmented reality next week? Because I got some stuff to say
Done.
about that.
I'm down.
All right. And Audrey, please don't poke your eye out with the plastic straw.
Okay.
Sorry, reusable plastic
Yes.
straw. I think we're just about ready to wrap up.
We're gonna wrap up on
in
time.
a couple minutes. Oh, we're over time.
But
But
still,
this
is-
I-
5 minutes.
We're giving Roberto a little bit of time here to think about his outro. But I don't know. I mean, how do you feel about all of this, Audrey? Everything we talked about today.
All of it?
Yeah, everything. We're giving Roberto some time here to think.
Great.
Wow. All right. Well, you guys heard it here first. It was great. That's probably copywritten, so I'm not going to.
Get a copyright strike just for that.
Kellogg's copyright strike. Yeah.
Oh no. Well, they can't because it was my voice that said it.
Yeah,
so.
and besides, it's not like they can
People are
demonetize this
copyrighting.
podcast because you guys have
We're
not
not
helped us to get to
monetized.
4,000 hours of watch time yet. So make sure you like and subscribe.
Oh. Are you ready with your outro yet, Roberto?
I
Do you
think I'm there. I think I'm there.
You have to
All
hit
right.
1K also, right?
Yeah, we gotta hit 1K.
Oh yeah, we gotta hit 1K.
Yeah, if you guys are listening and you haven't subscribed to us on YouTube yet, then please do so. It's youtube.com/noassemblypod. It really helps us out. We're trying to get to 1,000 just so that we can monetize this thing and maybe split the 10 cents that we get off of it.
Well, no, we can use it to reimburse the hosting for the podcast.
Yes. Where are
Um,
we at? Do you know?
What episode
where
are
are we at? What subscriber count we're at? I don't know, but we can find out.
We're over 100. We're probably at like 150.
We can find out afterwards.
Okay.
Find out after the show.
Okay.
All right, Roberto, whenever you're ready.
All right. Thank you for listening to the No Assembly Required podcast, a podcast where we talk about nothing. This podcast is filmed in front of a live YouTube audience. No audience members were harmed in the filming of this podcast, only the feelings of my co-host. Speaking of which, we are signing off with your host, Tiger Mom Romina, Control Audrey Delete, and of course, your favorite Dark Lord of the Interwebs, Roberto Blake. Thank you for listening to the No Assembly Required podcast. Please listen to us wherever podcasts can be downloaded and leave us a review in Apple Podcasts so that we don't have to continue to do them ourselves. Please rate us 5 stars because we will also do that ourselves if you do not. Help us reach our YouTube goals and dreams by subscribing and smashing the like button for the YouTube algorithm. This has been the No Assembly Required podcast. No audience members were harmed in the filming of this show. I promise, FTC, I promise. And Ajit Pai, you can suck it. Good night, one and all.
Dang.